Scientific reports at COP25 are predicting climatic conditions that will see an increase in severe natural events, and organisations such as the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction are attempting to counter losses and ensure sustainable futures globally. The need to strengthen the resilience of people, systems and approaches is top of the agenda as the scientists' data becomes undeniable.
The IPCC is telling us, and they have been telling us throughout the year, that climate emergency is getting intense and frequent. Now, that is directly impacting on the disasters that we are experiencing. If you look at just even this year, we saw the cyclones in Mozambique, we saw the hurricane in Bahamas, and we saw the heat waves in Europe, the typhoon in Japan. I can keep on going on and on. The past 20 years, the number of disasters related in one way or another to climate emergency has been 90% of the total number of disasters. And the actual number of disasters related to climate emergency has doubled during the same time. So there is a clear linkage between climate emergency and the intensity and frequency of disaster. And hence, I think there's this big call that, if we cannot succeed in enhancing prevention, which means in my work, disaster risk reduction, then we will keep on seeing more and more human life losses, economic losses, and the Sustainable Development Goals, I would say none of them would be achievable. Since Paris, for a while, mitigation was the big headline, as it should be, because if we cannot succeed in reaching carbon neutrality by 2050 and reduce green gas emission, then we are just, walking into a doom. However, now we know that adaptation and resilience, and hence disaster risk reduction, which is closely related to adaptation and resilience, needs to get more focus, and that's why since the last Climate Action Summit in September in the United Nations High-Level Week, it is getting a lot of attention. The fact that I am being asked to come to these events and talk against them in my position as the UNDRR head means that yes, finally disaster risk reduction is getting the attention that it needs, and it is coming from the countries which are suffering most, the LDCs and the SIDS. 2020 is a very important year for many of these post-2015 international agreements. It is a year by which they need to have their national and local strategies for disaster risk reduction in place. This is what we call the Target E. It is one of the 7 global targets, and we are now working, we have been working, but next year we will work even more intensely with these countries so that they achieve this. Now, the national and local disaster risk reduction strategies, it has to be closely linked to climate adaptation and resilience policies. If it doesn't have that part of the climate projection in the strategy, it is nothing more than a piece of paper. My priority for next year towards COP26 is to work within the UN system and with the member states so that as many countries as possible have a coherent disaster risk reduction strategy with climate emergency.